Today I want to talk about the need to redirect slightly and how small changes can have a big impact on your success. I call this a pivot, right? Just a small move away from maybe what you've been doing or the way that you're looking at something and looking at something in a slightly different way. These small changes can have a huge impact on the success of our organization. We are going through some of the weirdest times that we have ever gone through, from health and a social and a cultural and an economic and a political standpoint. Things are different. Things are different in 2021 than they were in 2020 at the beginning of the year. So we've gone through tremendous changes. If you're in the logistics business, probably done pretty well. If you're in the transporting goods throughout the country, you've probably done okay. I have acquaintances that I know that are in the, believe it or not, in the cleaning business. And they have absolutely expanded their business to focus on the businesses that are still working and that are essential. And so instead of cleaning those offices maybe once a day, they're cleaning them 3 times a day. If they were cleaning them once a week before, they're cleaning them every other day now. So there's businesses that are out there that have become very successful during this time. They've pivoted away from some of the things that they have done in the past, and they've moved towards those things that are doing well. Part of it is the 80-20 rule, is to focus on the 20% of your business that gives you 80% of your revenue. I'll give you an example in my world, is that we work with a lot of home builders, and there's a lot of home builders that we have worked in. Home building new homes is a very tactile, it's a very sensorial experience. And we've had clients, home builders, that have said, I will never do anything but physical models. That is the only way, that is who we are. We will spend the money so that people can see it, feel it, touch it, and experience it. And how can you do that if you're not really there? Well, if we look back at the last year, the home building industry went through a real shock from March and April and part of May in 2020 because everything was shut down. So people, even if they wanted to move out of the city, there was no way. The models were closed down. The model home complexes were completely closed down. So our clients were forced into a situation where they had to adapt. They had to modify what they did. They had to change their perspective. They had to go from we will never to maybe we should, because at that point they were unable to represent what it is they did to the public and go out to the marketplace because they didn't have anything to show them. So this whole virtual world, which has started probably about 15 years ago, right, and it's kind of gone like this, there's a huge spike during the last year because when people made the decision that they no longer want to live in a dense urban area and they want to adapt a suburban model to their life, they were willing to go online, and they were willing to maybe not experience it firsthand, but to experience it virtually. So the virtual representation of the home building offerings has kind of exploded in the last year. And what has the market done? The market said, because of these circumstances, because these things are not great, I am willing to not go there physically, but to experience it virtually. And I probably add to that a lot of people, it's a case where I think the market has overtaken those home builders that have said we will never, right? The market has adapted to seeing the world from a virtual standpoint, and they're okay not seeing it physically because we as a culture have become more comfortable with experiencing things in that kind of way. So there's really good alignment there. What does that mean? It means that the wave shouldn't crash over you. If you're surfing along like this, right, in business, those home builders that were just ahead of the wave that said we will never express what we do from a virtual standpoint, well, when the pandemic came, it just kind of crashed over them, and there was no choice. There was nothing left except for them to accept and adapt to that model. So small changes have a big impact, going from physical to virtual. So what can you do in your business, right? And what I would say is that the market is looking for how you're addressing the new realities that we have to deal with. Homeschooling, working from home, limited interaction with people, goods that arrive on our doorstep, and then the service that goes along with it, right? The delivery service, right? The food delivery services that are out there, and the parcel delivery services that are out there, and what kind of an impact does that have on people's lives? The goods and services that you bring to the market, are those wrapped in an understanding of what people are dealing with? This notion about cleanliness and hygiene, and the things that we touch and the things that we breathe, and how that impacts our interaction with our market. Are those in a place where you can adapt to what the new realities and expectations are by people, so that they feel safer, they feel validated, they feel listened to? A small pivot away from what you're doing now. Maybe it's in your packaging, maybe it's in your delivery system, maybe it's in your wrapping, in your website, how you represent those things, so it doesn't look like you've had your head in the sand for the last year, but you've been listening to the market, right? And even people that are not embracing this health crisis that we are somewhat in right now. Even people that don't, they want to know that it's like, well, it might be a little true, and so I think that I'd really rather have somebody that's a little bit insightful, sensitive to those kinds of things, right? To address it. And there's businesses out there that are completely turning their backs on this, and I don't think it's a very smart thing to do, but it's certainly a position that people are taking. They're saying, I'm pivoting away from believing any of this stuff. And there are some people that are representing that in their business. At least they've taken a stand. It's not necessarily, maybe not the best one for me or you or your business, but they're taking a stand. They've at least addressed it. They've said, hey, we've looked at this, and this is what we're going to do about it. But at least they've done something. It's not just business as usual. The first 3, 4, 5 months of the pandemic, some of the ads that I saw, on social media and on television and on cable, it's kind of like, does this media world not know what we're going through? And the ones that did deal with it, they did the thing that I completely would discourage you from doing, is that they wrapped it in fear. That's not the way to build your business. Fear is not a good way to address the market, the marketplace, the people with whom you interact. Fear is something that takes on a life of its own, and as leaders, we're required to rise above that. The acronym that I use for fear is false evidence appearing real. There is a whole bunch of that out there right now. So when you make your pivot, when you pivot towards things that are working, right, and you don't wrap it in fear, like, if you don't use this hand sanitizer, you're gonna die. You're gonna die. I don't want to die. I want to live. It's a bad motivation. And if you can do the thing that I encourage people to look at this time relative to the impacts just on the pandemic, is think health and wellness, right? Those are good things. Those are positive things. This is a healthy thing. This is going to keep you well. These are things that you can focus on, mind, body, soul, that will boost your immune system, that will enrich your life, that will make you a little happier. In my world, what we're doing is we're focusing on materials and air quality in homes and institutional buildings that we're doing, non-off-gassing materials, things that we've been doing for a couple of years now that we've kind of taken up a notch. Materials like copper and brass that have a molecular structure that kind of swallows up the COVID cooties and doesn't allow them to be spread. Simple things like that. Antimicrobial surfaces for furniture. So we've encouraged our colleagues in the older adult market, who also work in the home building market. The older adult market, they have been all about antimicrobial surfaces forever. And we asked them, said, what are you doing in residential? Well, we're not doing anything. You think there might be an opportunity? So we're bringing that together so that what we've learned in the older adult market, which is a high level of hygiene and sanitized kinds of spaces and materials and furnitures and everything that you touch. We've been doing that for a number of years in the older adult market, right? Well, we're bringing that in now through the help of our suppliers, our vendors, and our consultants into the residential world. Why is a small pivot mean so much? If you're going on a long journey, if you're sailing from point A to point B, right, and you decide that you want to change your destination, the further you are away from that, the smaller the change needs to be. You can make a small degree or two change and change your destinations from here to here just by pivoting slightly and then moving towards a different goal. That's the significance that a small pivot makes over time, because you won't necessarily see that right away, but the further you go along, the further we go through the things that we're going through, and the more earnest that you are about the offerings that you bring, the different messaging, the way that you talk to your team, the way that you talk to and encourage and show the people on the backstage, staff, vendors, consultants, sub-consultants, and on the front stage, the marketplace, clients, right? The public domain that we bring our goods and services to. The more you can show them that this pivot that you made is significant and it's impactful, then the longer you go on, the more success that you'll have towards getting there. But you've only made a small change. But what you've done is that you've incorporated the front stage and the backstage into this phenomenon that you're bringing to the marketplace, and you're expressing it in your marketing materials, in the way that your people show up, in the way that you represent what you do, how you do it, the goods and services that you offer, the processes that you use in order to bring your goods and services to the market have got to take these things into consideration. And when they do it in a positive way, do it with integrity, do it with a high ethical standards, the market will encourage you for what you've done by writing you a check, by paying for your goods and services, because you will have been that distinctive. That's how important it is.
Thank you for joining us for the Death to the Org Chart podcast with Jeffrey DeMure. Be sure to subscribe on Facebook, iTunes, YouTube, and anywhere you listen to podcasts. To get more information about Jeff or to order your copy of the book, Death to the Org Chart, go to dttoc.com. Go create the freedom you were meant for.